Hey everybody, I'm Lance with Appalachia Off-Road, and today we're here to do an installation video with our first product. We're longtime Toyota fanboys, and so it just seemed fitting that today that our first product was going to be a center section bumper for the 4Runners. Ours is winch compatible, holds a 30-inch LED, and it works on 2014 plus 5th gen 4Runners. It'll work on the SR5, the trail model, and the off-road model. It also works on our TRD Pro model. The only one that it will not work on is the Limited, because the Limited has a different front end. We're definitely excited to get this thing started, and we're going to walk you through this whole process today. I'm going to have a couple of helpers in and out helping me both film and move some of this heavy machinery around. So the cool thing about starting this process this way, obviously we're missing the center section here. This is where our bumper goes. Because this was a TRD Pro that we did all of our prototype design and testing on, we knew there was going to be times when we were going to be taking the bumper on and off. This section originally was on here. The original bumper cover is right here. And actually, when you go to do this, you may want to buy a separate bumper cover, or you can just use your own. The nice thing about the 4Runners is what you are actually going to get rid of is this piece right here. So if you take a marker, a Sharpie, and draw all the way around here, this whole piece removes. There's a couple clips on the backhand side, and it's just really easy to remove these clips. And at that point, you can either tackle the process yourself of removing this section, which is ultimately this section right here, or maybe better yet, you take it to your local body shop and let them do it. Give them a couple of dollars, and I'm sure they'd all be very happy to do that, and you'll get a really nice job done as well too. All right, the first step that I like to do is to remove the bolts across the bottom. Now there's a total of 6. There's 2 on this side, there's 2 on this side, and there's actually 2 on the bottom. We're missing the 2 on the bottom because I already have the center section removed. But I'm just going to hop under here. It's a 10 millimeter bolt, very easy to do. So the 6 bolts that come out of the bottom, the 2 here, 2 on the other side, and the 2 on the bottom, we don't reuse those. So I would recommend just getting a little baggie, putting them in there, throwing them in the glove box, and or down in your garage or what have you. Then you have them in case you need them down the road. Now, the next step that we want to move to is there's 3 bolts. Gavin, if you want to come in here really quickly. So on either side of the 4Runner, there's 3 bolts right here. Obviously, I have these loose, and a skinnier one on the top and 2 on the bottom. We're just going to remove these. We'll do the same for the other side. I set these to the side because you will definitely need these. So skinny one separate from the thicker one. And I'll go grab the other side. So I've already gotten a head start. On this top trim piece, there's actually 13 little pop clips here. And come on in here, I'll show you how to pop these out. They're really cool, actually. Just push down and just get a screwdriver underneath, and they pop right out. And then when you go to put them back in, you just pop this little center section out, fish it down inside of here. As I said, there's 13 of these, so I put them in a plastic baggie so I don't lose them. Ultimately, they'll roll around on the floor in here, I'll never find them. So after we remove that trim panel, there's a 10 millimeter bolt, which I already have loosened up. It's right here in the center. You remove that, and there's 2 little pop tabs right here. They very easily pop out. And once we get those loose, if you just give a little tug, you can remove that whole top center section. So I'm going to set that to the side. 4 more pins down here too. So one here, here, and set those to the side. They all have to go back in, so you don't want to lose them. So we're just about ready to pull the bumper skin off. There's one more thing that you have to do before we do that process, and it's to unplug both fog lights. If you get underneath here, look up and you can see there's a clip. It's pretty tight in there to put a camera. So you just unclip both lights. And then we move on to this next step, which is really interesting how Toyota did this. So this part that I'm pointing to right here on the bumper skin, really integral part in removing this. It's crazy how Toyota engineered this, but to remove this whole bumper skin, all you really need to do is put a little bit of pressure on the top, which peels it over there, removes it all the way from here. Lauren, can you hold this for me? So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And at this point, all we do is walk it right off. Okay. So the next step is going to be to remove both of these shrouds. And there's a clip on either side. Just remove those clips. When we go to reinstall, these will have to be trimmed on the bottom to clear the off-road bumper that we are using as well. So to remove them, you just have to fish them out of here. A little bit tight inside of here. So we're next going to remove the factory center section here. I like to remove the styrofoam piece so I get access. There's 6 little nuts inside of here. So I like to use an impact driver, 14 millimeter, and these things come off pretty quickly. So when they roll all over the floor, make sure you have 6 of them. There you go, Lauren. Set that over there. So for our next step, we're going to have Lauren remove, there's 4 bolts on the edge of the frame here. We have to do the same on the other side. All the way out. Take them all the way out. Take the other one. There we go. And if you look on this, they have this hook that hooks it on the edge of the frame. You'll notice that our bumper does the same thing. It's pretty heavy, so we have a hook on there to just hold it on there nice and easily. All right? So there's no need to remove the skid plate. You can see the TRD Pro has a bigger, heftier skid plate. No need to remove any of this. At this point, we're ready to move over to where the bumper section is. I'm actually going to install a Smittybilt X20 winch on there as well too. Have it bolted on. We're going to show you how to wire that thing up and get it hooked up to your 4Runner. We're going to opt to install our solenoid on the side here. There's not a whole lot of room up front and on the top here. So we're going to install our solenoid to the side, and you do that with, there's a Smittybilt has a bracket. We mounted the bracket onto the bottom. There's 2 screws right here that'll screw into right here, and you need a long screwdriver to make this happen. Smittybilt does a really nice job of keeping this simple. So everything's labeled A, B, C, and D on here. And the wires all have A, B, C, and D. Actually, this one's A as well, too. So we're going to match the letters up with their counterparts and get this thing wired up. So before we go and put our bumper in the front of the 4Runner, we want to make sure that we have our winch installed, everything's ready to go. All I have to do is hook my positive and negative wires up to the battery, and I have my LED in, and I have the LED wire right here as well too, so it's pretty much plug and play after we get it on there. Now one thing we want to add, since we removed the center section, there's actually 2 pins on the bottom that hold that help hold the bumper cover on. We actually have brackets that bolt into the side of our bumper, and you can see that 2 bolts right here, and we have 2 bolts on the bottom, which you'll see in the install, that we run large bolts through the bottom of the bumper skin, and that holds everything flush on the bottom. Okay. Gently. Set down gently.
Owie.
All right. We're to the point where we need to lift the bumpers and the winch onto the front of the 4Runner. We have tabs welded onto our mounts that will catch the top of the frame rails here. There's also a bolt hole on each side of the radiator support that we have that set up to mount there easily. It's helpful if you have somebody really strong to help lift this onto the front of here. So we're going to have Gavin help us do this. Make sure that those pins line up on here. All right. Your finger on you have your hand in the wrong spot, Gavin. Yeah. Lift yours, put yours on there. Get it on there. Yeah.
Is it on?
It's on. There you go. And now it's hanging on its own weight. Now we just have to line all the bolt holes up and tighten everything up. So what we need to do next, now that we have the bumper hung on the front here, we want to make sure that there's the 4 factory hangers here on the front frame. We want to tighten those bolts. We have a large bolt that we're going to bolt into the radiator support back here. We'll put that on. And then we have our 2 bolts here that are going to hold our wing on that actually supports the fender. We'll do that as well too. Okay. Before you tighten everything up, there's a couple things that I want to point out here. There are a couple of lines here that you're probably going to have to pull and bend, just tweak just a little bit. Not a huge deal, and maybe a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch at the most. There's also a bracket, the center bracket back here. If you run a winch, it's pretty tight in here. So what I did is took a pair of pliers and just sort of bent this bracket just a little bit, 1/4 inch to the left or so, just to give it a little bit of space. It's not that it was hitting, but in case it shakes around so we don't get any squeaks or rattles. So as you're tightening all these bolts, we recommend that you get them not quite snug, just in case we have to move it around and adjust it. We do leave you a little bit of room to wiggle up and down just to make sure that when it's all said and done and you get the bumper skin back on, that it's level and even, and it looks just like factory. So the radiator shrouds would definitely need to be cut. The bottom needs to be trimmed in order to clear what we have going on here. I've not run them. I've not added them back on mine, even as we were doing development and testing. I know we've tested in cold weather climate, and I've had no issues with it. If we decide that we're going to run into an issue during the summer as it gets a little bit warmer, then I will cut these and add them back on there. But I think that's pretty much up to the end user what you decide to do. You want to make sure when you're hooking up to your battery that you get the positive red cable on the positive post on the battery and the negative, of course, on the negative side. So pretty simple task, but not a good thing if you get it incorrect. So we're pretty much ready to button everything up and attach the front end. We're going to drop this onto here, plug the lights back in, and then we'll just go ahead and reattach all the clips and make sure everything's straight. Should be all set, ready to roll. Can you hold this center section? It's easiest to plug the lights in before you have the bumper actually on. We're going to add these pins back on the top here. Put that one later. And so because we removed the center section, what we need to do is support this edge right here. So the wings that we have mounted to our main bumper, we now have to go ahead and attach to the side of the bumper cover. You will very likely have to drill these holes out a little bit bigger. It gives you the ability to move this fender to the left, right, forward, backward. Basically, you want to have enough wiggle room so you get it in the right spot, so that you have a really good gap right here in the corner and on the other side as well. So we're going to go ahead and reattach the side of the bumper cover here. There's 3 bolts here, 2 wider ones and then a long skinny one. The long skinny one goes on top. Whether you put this trim piece back on as the final step or not is up to you. A lot of guys will leave it off so they get access to their winch up front, but actually for us, we're going to run this. I like the way that it looks. I like the cleanliness of it, and I don't need to worry about leaving that off because when I designed this bumper, one of the important things for me was to be able to actually access the winch from outside here. So I can get in to turn, I'm running a wireless winch that has an on-off switch, so I can actually reach that. I can also plug the wired unit in if I want to. And then on this side where the clutch is, I can reach up in here and flip the clutch to either engage it or to put it in neutral to yank it out. So we're able to do that with our design. All right. I want to thank everybody for checking out our product install of our new bumper. We're really proud of it, and we're hopeful that we're going to be able to get these on a bunch of machines out there. Make sure you check us out on the web, www.appalachiaoffroad.com. We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page as well too, just Appalachia Off-Road. I want to remind everybody that these bumpers are designed, engineered, manufactured 100% not only in the United States, they're made in the heart of Appalachia right here in central Pennsylvania. So again, we're really proud of this product, and we hope that you guys like it half as much as we do.